It's been pressing on my mind to go over this topic, and I don't know why it's been pressing on my mind to go over this topic, but I just got confirmation this morning about going over this particular topic, so I feel it's imperative that I do so. Now, many people are going to be shocked and amazed at the information that we present, but it needs to be talked about. It needs to be talked about. We got to, go over it and hopefully give some enlightenment to those that are lost in the source. So, if you're not aware, there are various predictions, various prophecies that are in the book known as the Bible. And what many people are not aware of is that some of these events already happened. And what people are also not aware of is that some of these events are going to occur again. Who here has heard of the tsunami that occurred in Indonesia? Who here has heard? Put a 1 in the chat if you've heard of the tsunami that happened in Indonesia. It was several years ago. It wasn't recent. But if you're familiar with that story, put a 1 in the chat. Put a 1 in the chat if you heard of that situation. Greetings, shalom to you all. I'm going to read something about that history, okay? And I want to take that into consideration in regards to our conversation that we're having about prophetic events. Okay? So the situation in Indonesia is something that would make your hair stand on edge. Okay? It was a tsunami, and that tsunami had a significant impact on others. A tsunami is when a large wave of water causes displacement of a particular area or people groups or situation. Tsunamis can impact coastal regions. Tsunamis can impact islands and continental areas. And tsunamis have a devastating impact on those that live in those areas. In 2004, there was a Indian Ocean earthquake and tsunami that occurred. In 2004, at around 7:58 local time, a major earthquake with a magnitude of 9.2 to 9.3 struck with a significant impact where the epicenter of it was right off the west coast of northern Sumatra in Indonesia. Okay? So now when this event took place, it took a lot of people by surprise, to say the least. The undersea megathrust earthquake, known by the scientific community as the Sumatra Andaman earthquake, was caused by a rupture along the fault between the Burma Plate and the Indian Plate and reached a Mercalli intensity of up to 9 in some areas. So here's some quick facts about that incident that happened in 2004. So it reached an area of Indonesia, and Korean rescue workers were recovering bodies under the debris. A man was searching through the rubble for his family, and people were running away from the tsunami. And it was really amazing. There was video footage of it, for sensitive viewers, of course. That information But the amount of casualties in that singular event of 2004 of people that passed away was well over 227,000. How little do we forget the things that happen in the world we live in? How little do we forget the very importance of these events and how they impact humanity? Y'all, listen, 200, a quarter of a million. Let me put it in that perspective so you can kind of think in your brain. A quarter of a million people disappeared over the course of a few days just in that event alone. Okay? So, is it important to understand that these situations are not just mere circumstance, but they are biblical based prophecies and judgments by the Creator Himself? Now, listen to this passage that we're going to read here in the Bible. This is Job chapter 3, verse 24. It says, "For my sighing comes before I eat, and my roarings are poured out like the waters." Psalms chapter 46, verse 3, it says, "Though the waters thereof roar and be troubles, though the mountains shake with the swelling thereof." This is talking about what? Significant global impact. Listen close. It says, "Therefore will I not fear, though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea, though the waters thereof roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake with the swelling thereof, Selah." So now we're reading out of the Bible about significant predictions that reveal to us the importance of understanding that waters and earthquakes can have a significant impact on humanity. Y'all understand that? I hope you do. Because there is a move to try to cause people to forget the significant impacts of earthquakes and tsunamis. The Bible talks about tsunamis. The Bible talks about devastating earthquakes. And it's been coming to my spirit to talk about this and warn the people that it will happen again. There's going to be a significant earthquake that causes a tsunami, and many people are going to be impacted by it. How do I know that? It's because I've read different things in the Bible, and those predictions have come true. You see, a lot of times people say, what's the proof that God exists? What's the proof that God is real? When you read the judgments in this book and you examine global history, this is why you see newscasters say this event has biblical proportions, right? Now listen close to this. This is Luke chapter 21, verse 24. It says, "And they," referring to the Israelites, "shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled." So what are we reading here? We're reading about global events happening that mark a group of people being led as slaves into all nations. So now when I examine world history and I say, what group of people went into slavery in all nations? It wasn't the Yiddish people. But when I look at blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, black people from the Middle East, black people from Africa, black people from Western Asia, I'm like, wait a minute. These are the people that were taken all the way to America, the Caribbean islands, Brazil, Puerto Rico, United States, Nova Scotia, Australia, Melanesia as slaves. So then immediately after this text, you read verse 25. It says, and there shall be signs. This is Luke 21, verse 25. And there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. So wait, hold on a second. So we're reading out of the Bible that immediately after the incidents involving people being scattered all over the planet, you see significant judgments taking place. You see signs in the sun, for example. Have you seen solar eclipses within the last 200 years? Yes, you have. There was a recent solar eclipse this past April that went across the United States. And doomsday Christians were running wild. They were saying, it's the end of the world. It's the end of their world. It's the end of their kingdom. It's the end of their society. But it's the beginning of Jacob's, according to the Bible. It says, and the moon, have you been seeing significant notifications of red moons and pink moons and blue moons? Strange solar activity, like people literally seeing sunspots. People having videos where like, hey, wait a minute, the sun looks really red and it's not even sunset. What's going on? Right? Where the moon looks like the color of blood, water's turning blood red all over the planet, distress of nations, calamities and wars. Then it says the seas and the waves roaring, going into what? Tsunamis. These tsunamis are caused by earthquakes. So not only in 2004 was there an Asian tsunami that occurred, but there was also another tsunami that occurred, right, in Japan. Now put a 1 in the chat if you heard about the tsunami that happened in Japan. Put a 1 in the chat if you've heard about the tsunami, because we touched on the one that happened in 2004. Now we're going to touch on the one in 2011. All right, C Royalty, thank you for placing 1. 2011, Tohoku earthquake and tsunami. On March 11th, 2011, an undersea megathrust earthquake occurred in the Pacific Ocean. 72 kilometers, also known as 45 miles, east of the Oshika Peninsula and the Tohoku region. It lasted approximately 6 minutes and caused a tsunami. So imagine, just within 6 minutes, 6 minutes of the ground shaking underwater. Just within 6 minutes, y'all. It took time for this thing to create a tsunami. And this tsunami is known literally as the Great East Japan Earthquake. They got a name for it, y'all. They got movies and documentaries and anime TV shows about this event. They call it 3/11. You know how like in the United States they got a 9/11? Oh, that's ironic. Today's 9/11. So for Japan, they have a 3/11. So here's some quick facts about it. The event happened in 2011. All right. A helicopter was flying over the devastation of the port of Sendai to deliver food and supplies of the earthquake to the survivors of the earthquake and tsunami. It reached over the course of Japan on March the 11th, which was several years ago. The duration of the earthquake was 6 minutes. However, the magnitude of it was a 9.1. The depth was about 18 miles, and the fault was a convergent boundary between the Pacific plate and the Okhotsk microplate. This type of earthquake is called a megathrust. Okay, the areas affected rather was Japan, shaking the tsunami across the Pacific Rim, and the total amount of damage was 360 billion United States dollars. Okay, did this cause landslides? Yes, it did. Was there aftershocks? They say that there was over 13,000 aftershocks. Now, how many people were impacted by this thing? 20,000 were unalive, over 6,000 were injured, and 2,500 went missing, y'all. It was the most powerful earthquake ever recorded in Japan, and the fourth most earthquake powerful recorded in the world since they began seismography in 1900, y'all. So when the Bible says that there's going to be signs in the earth, distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, does that make the Bible a true book? The answer is yes. Do me a favor, y'all. We got 15 people in the room. Share the room with at least 10 people. Share the room with at least 10 people. Share if you care. Share if you care. If you care about the information being presented here and the significant impact of what it can, because what if it happens in New Orleans? What if it happens in Veracruz? What if it happens in Los Angeles? What if it happens to New York? I'm trying to help people understand that just because these things have happened overseas in Indonesia and in Japan, it does not mean that it will never happen in Western countries. You see, many people are deceived to believe that at any given time, they'll be fine, that their governments will protect them. Ask the black and brown people that lived in New Orleans during the 2005 hurricane, when the famous musician known as Kanye West said to the world, George Bush don't care about black people. You think when these significant events take place that the government is going to have your back? No, that's delusional. That's delusional. To think that something as minuscule as a hurricane, right? Just a hurricane, because we've come across hurricanes many times in the United States, and the response by the emergency teams were lacking. The response and aid provided by the non-governmental organizations were lacking, significantly lacking. The Red Cross, the Salvation Army, the United States military services, the National Guard, they were all extremely lacking when it came to an immediate response for those that were impacted. So now, if that's a hurricane, and the United States is already setting up things such as federal emergency management teams, right, for things like that. So what are they going to do in the event that there is a tsunami, an earthquake? Because remember, there was an earthquake that happened in Haiti, and that earthquake took out 200,000 people, right? What if that earthquake caused a tsunami and that water from the Gulf of Mexico traveled all the way to Florida, Louisiana, Texas, Alabama, right? Mississippi, all those coastal regions. right, that are there in the Gulf of Mexico. What if that earthquake that happened in Haiti caused the tsunami that traveled all the way to the States? What if there was an earthquake that hit in the Pacific region that caused a wave of water to come all the way down to California? You see, the various things we see happening today are all biblical based prophecies if you have eyes to see and ears to hear. Listen close. We're going to read Isaiah chapter 29, verse 6. Watch this. It says, "Thou shalt be visited of the Lord of hosts with thunder, and with earthquake, and with great noise, and with storm and tempest, and the flame of devouring fire." Right now, ladies and gentlemen, you have over 14 fires impacting California right now. Over 14. Over 14 fires in California right now. And we're reading out of the Bible that God would visit the earth with flames of fire. You can't make this stuff up, y'all. You can't make this stuff up, y'all. So not only are earthquakes prophesied in the Bible, not only are tsunamis prophesied in the Bible, not only are tornadoes and storms prophesied in this Bible, but also fires. This is an article posted 17 hours from the BBC. It says, quote, "The California town that kept a record-breaking wildfire at bay." In 2017, one of California's largest ever wildfires was steadily approaching Montecito, but it had long been preparing for just such an event and survived almost intact. So in 2017, there was a wildfire specialist for the Monticello Fire Department who learned of enormous wildfire that was creeping towards the Southern California town. She was about to be on the front lines of the community of less than 10,000 people facing off against the Thomas Fire, one of California's largest ever wildfires. So now, with that being said, y'all, there was a fire that happened in 2024. This impacts not only California, but also Nevada. California and Nevada. It says, this is from NBCnews.com. This was just posted yesterday. It says, wildfires hit California and Nevada, prompting evacuations and power outages. One of the most concerning blazes, the Line Fire, spans nearly 33,000 acres and was at least 14% in containment in the San Bernardino National Forest in southern. You see that, folks? So the very thing we're reading out of the Bible, the very thing who call themselves Christians refuse to read, is going on right now. Right now. Right now, y'all. Let's read the Bible verse again. It says in Isaiah, thank you for sending a gift. Appreciate you. Thank you for sending a gift. Shalom to you all that's joining on. Isaiah 29, verse 6. Isaiah 29, verse 6. It says, "Thou shalt be visited of the Lord of hosts with thunder, and with earthquake, and great storm, and tempest, and the flame of devouring fire." Then it says, "And the multitude of all the nations that fight against Ariel." Ariel is another word for the lost tribes of Israel. Blessings to you as well, Sister Focus on Y'all. Thank you so much. Right? It says, and the multitude of all the nations, that's all the Gentiles, that fought against her and her munition, and that distress her, shall be as a dream of a night vision. Y'all see that? Y'all, the God of this Bible is not playing. These devouring fires are going to destroy, and it's going to be like somebody's nightmare. That's what we're reading here. It says, it shall be as a dream of a night vision. That's a nightmare, y'all. That's what we're reading here. So while the descendants of those that have colonized the planet, the descendants of those that have created chaos and global conflict all across the world say, oh, it wasn't us, it was our ancestors. We had nothing to do with it. Yet and still, God does not care. God says, look, you have been silent to the screams and cries of my people. Now it's time for no one to hear your tears. When forest fires devastate the region, you see what happened in India and what happened in Japan. All these areas used to be a part of the Silk Road and the Indian Ocean slave trade. And many people don't know this because they try to hide this history. Okay, so now what we're reading here in Isaiah chapter 29 is showing us that God is showing that he's going to visit the earth with judgments. Those judgments include earthquakes, tsunamis, storms, and the flame of devouring fire. And the target is all the nations that have fought against Ariel. Ariel is a code word for the lost tribes of Israel. That's blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, people in the global diaspora. God says those that have negatively impacted his people, they're going to receive the business as if they were walking in a nightmare. Watch this, watch this. Let's go to Psalms. Let's go to Psalms chapter 46. And the reason why I'm covering this information, folks, is it's been pressing on my mind to talk about this. Psalms chapter 46, the start of verse 1, it says, to the chief musician for the sons of Korah, a song upon Alamoth. God, God, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. If you're ever going through difficult times, make sure you put your trust in the Creator. Verse 2, therefore will we not fear, though the earth be removed. What is the Bible saying here? Earthquakes are going to happen. Then it says, though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea. Wait a minute. God is saying not even mountains are exempt. You see, there's people that are building underground bunkers, underground shelters, mountainous caverns to hide from the wrath of the Creator, setting up their underground shelters. But God says those mountains are going to be moved into the ocean. Yo, does California have mountains? Yes. Does Nevada have mountains? Yes. Does Utah have mountains? Yes. Are there Appalachian mountains in the United States? Yes. Come on, y'all. Pay attention. Don't think because you're in a mountainous region that you're exempt from the judgments of the Creator. It says, therefore will we not fear, talking about God's people, though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea. Watch this. Though the waters thereof roar and be troubled. Y'all, that's talking about tsunamis. Though the mountains shake with the swelling thereof, Selah. that is going into earthquakes and tsunamis. So the reason why I'm covering this, folks, is that God is impressing upon my spirit that it's going to happen again. You better read your Bible. This is not to cause fear. This is to make you prepared in the event that it takes place. Once again, this is not to cause you to have fear. This is to cause you to wake up and think. It happened in Indonesia already. It happened in Japan already. What makes you think it won't happen in the West? It can happen in Brazil. It can happen in Argentina. It can happen in Mexico. It can happen in the United States. It can happen in Alaska. It can happen in Argentina. Do not think because you're in the West that you're somehow miraculously under protection when the West has created so much evil on the earth. Verse 3 again. Though the waters thereof roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake with the swelling thereof, Selah. There is a river, the streams whereof shall make glad the city of God, the holy place of the tabernacle of the Most High. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. God shall help her, and that right early. Listen close. This is showing you that God is preparing us for his kingdom, his New Jerusalem. In order for us to live in the New Jerusalem that will come down on earth, the wicked societies and cultures of this society will have to be diminished. The Bible says Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning of that which comes. So God's kingdom has to come on earth. And the kingdom of the devil has to be taken away. Watch this. This is Psalms chapter 46, verse 6. It says, the heathen raged. The kingdoms were moved. He utters his voice. The earth melted. You hear that? You hear that? So when Christ opens his mouth, it will be a flame of devouring fire. The Lord of hosts is with us, the God of Jacob, the God of Jacob, the God of Jacob is our refuge. Come, behold the works of the Lord, what desolations he hath made in the earth. He makes the wars to cease unto the end of the earth. Wait a minute. Are wars going on right now? Yes. So what's going to cause the wars to stop? God has to bring forth divine intervention. He says, desolations have been made in the planet. Now, who's going to be the one that's going to be most desolate? Let's find out. Let's find out. Let's go to the book of Ezekiel. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 35. Ezekiel chapter 35. Let's start at verse 1. It says, moreover, the word of the Lord came to me saying, Son of man, set thy face against Mount Seir and prophesy against it. Mount Seir is another name for Western civilization. Verse 3, and say unto it, thus saith the Lord God, behold, O Mount Seir, I am against thee, and I will stretch out my hand against thee, and will make thee most desolate. I will lay thy cities waste, and thou shalt be desolate, and thou shalt know that I am the Lord. Wow. So Western civilization, aka Mount Seir, aka the children of Esau, Edom, God says he will make most desolate. So now, how is he going to do it? Let's go back. Psalm chapter 46, verse 1 and verse 2. It says, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in time of trouble. Therefore will not we fear, though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the seas, though the waters thereof roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake with the swelling thereof. Let's jump down to verse 8. It says, Come, behold the works of the Lord. You see, people think that Jesus Christ is going to come back with a let's hug and sing and dance and kumbaya and all of that BS. Come and behold the works of the Lord. What desolations, what desolations, what desolations he have made in the earth. He makes wars to cease unto the end of the earth. He breaks the bow and cuts the spear in sunder. He burns the chariot in the fire. Be still and know. What does the Bible say? Be still and know. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the heathen. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our salvation and our refuge and our hope. So y'all, if you're in this truth, you're keeping the commandments, you're striving to be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect, just get your popcorn, stand back and watch and see how your God is going to bring salvation to you by bringing desolation on the earth. That got to make you smile. That got to give you hope. All the evils that we experienced here on this planet, slavery, colonization, mass incarceration, police brutality, discrimination, disrespect, vitriol, all of these things we've experienced for hundreds of years, thousands of years since we've encountered the Gentiles. God says he's going to deliver you from all of these things. He is your refuge. He is your hope. Put your faith and trust in him. Because once you see that earthquake pop off, don't start to cry for the nations. Don't say, oh, it's sad. Just say, all of this is done for my deliverance. Thank you for listening to the Forefront Radio. I hope this information was insightful for you. Once again, this is not to cause any trepidation to those that are listening, but this is to inform the public that these events will take place again. Those that are listening, but this is to inform the public that these events will take place again.